Aren't they gorgeous? Just so lovely. Good afternoon, everybody. Huge warm welcome to Carnation Crafts. Lovely to have you with us. I know lots of you have already received your Stay a While collection, and man alive, does it knock it out the park. This is crazy good. Are you okay, Taz?
Is it Linda who said that she was going to craft after the show?
I think so. Linda, are you crafting with us? That's the question. Today's show, we are looking at Stay a While. This is your last chance. We are low on stock now. 240806. Stay a While collection. Show price $109.99. Usual price of $134.99. Combined price $151.94. There's a QR code at the bottom of your screen. Please do use that. It'll take you straight to the product that you're looking for. If you're more old-fashioned like I am, just take yourself over to the Carnation website, which is www.carnationcrafts.co.uk. Head to the search bar and type in 240806. At the moment, as we speak today on the Carnation website, there will be a banner on the front that will say Stay a While. You can click there as well. However, if you're watching this 6 months down the line, it will be the new collection. But just easy access to all of your elements there. Stay a While is all about sitting down, taking a moment, resting and enjoying your surroundings. That might be on park bench. Taz looks like she's doing that right now in her little corner. It might be on a park bench in a park. It could be looking at a church. It could be hidden behind some trees. It could be in your own garden. Many different places where we take those moments, don't we, to just catch our breath and sit and enjoy some peace. And that's exactly what this collection celebrates, those moments of rest and joy. And people watch. I like to people watch too. It's always good to just see what's going on in the world. So this is your opportunity to provide that to your recipient. And I don't think there's anybody that wouldn't take pleasure in that. The cards are extraordinary. Not only do we give you those parts that allow you to build those scenes, we also give you elements that may be more symbolic for different reasons. We've got the park bench. We've got the church. So we're covering you for occasions. That means you've got your birthdays covered. You've got your christenings covered. You've got Christmas covered in a lot of ways as well. There's many reasons that this collection is going to be valid for everything that you do. Easter is covered. The church covers so many things, doesn't it? And also those florals, those corners, those gorgeous decorative elements. So we're going to explore this through the boards. Then we are going to look at things like the perfect papers. And we've got an incredible set of nested dies for you. We're going to look at those in the first demo. We're going to look at apertures in the first demo. I did promise that I would do you an aperture demo. Somebody very specifically asked for that last week. So I'll show you how to do layered apertures with those nested, and then we'll get to a full demo as well. Hopefully all of the things happening. So let's have a look at the boards for Into the Scene card shape. This is exquisite. Look at those layers. Look at that build. It's so visually pleasing before you even start. Let's break this down. First of all, you've got two card shapes. You've got the main card shape that sits at the bottom here, which is your rounded edge. But this itself, that inner panel, that can also be a card. You can just rotate it the other way and you have this beautiful swag on the top. So instantly two cards in one. Then we've got your built-in apertures. Now these are your easy apertures, they're done for us. Just by raising on some foam tape, you will get distance between the base card and your top aperture piece. That will allow anybody to walk into the scene. And that's why it's got the name it's got, Into the Scene card shape. We're walking into it. So you've got those elements that are made easy for us. And I think part of the reason this has been a runaway success is because of that. Because apertures are quite difficult to do. It's also sometimes just something we don't want to get involved in. It can be difficult, and they're not necessarily those easy pieces. When we've got it made for us, it's measured for us, it's done for us, and it's extremely visually pleasing. No hassles, right? So we can make those extraordinary cards. You've got it all here. Added to that, we'll give you a pop-up mechanism. And for those of you who've watched the shows already, you know exactly what this is. We have demoed this in detail twice. So we did that demo in the first show yesterday and in this morning's show or this afternoon show at 1 o'clock. So you will see those elements coming through where we get that extra pop of dimension on our cards. So not only do we have those apertures, that layered aperture that allows the dimension to go into the cards, and you can see it working in full force here, you also then have the extension that sits on the front. So we are automatically getting a walkway into our cards. We talk about this a lot with Carnation. And I often don't hear other companies talk about it, and I would never disparage another company, but it's interesting to me that we don't talk about building the scenes more. And I love that Carnation do that, because if I was to tell you a story, one of the things that I need to do is give you details when I'm telling you the story. Otherwise, it's not actually a story. It's just a bunch of either facts or fiction. In order to be able to expand on that, I've got to give you slight details. So if I'm describing a person, hair, those kind of things. What Carnation do is give us those elements that tell the story. The little birds may be in trees. We might have elements where we've got a little squirrel possibly stealing somebody's apple, as you see on the bench there. We're telling those stories, aren't we? Those elements are coming forward, so we give a narrative for what we're doing. And that's why we give dimension through Aperture. It tells the story, and it's so important. Beautiful pop-up mechanism, easy to use. You'll see it in the previous demonstration and in yesterday's, like I say. Then, added to that, still on the same die set here, we're still on into the scene, you've got these incredible corners. If you know me at all, if you've followed Carnation for any time, you know corners are one of my big things. I love them. They frame out a card. They're so, so valid. You've got layered ones here. Now, of course, you can use them independently. If you've got small cards, you might want to just use the little wee one here. If you're doing those big 8x8s, you might want to bring in that large one. But they're important because they frame things out. However, these ones seat inside each other. They're nested, like the nested dining tables we used to have. They are those. And so because of that, that dimension we're talking about with the aperture of the card shape, and then that added pop-up element, then the added layering of those florals, we are fully walking in. We are immersing ourselves, and your recipient will immerse themselves as well. It makes them tangible somehow, and that's a really nice place to be, because we've got something that is not just visual, but it's tactile. It's all of those elements that we want in a card that just produce something more full, more wonderful. The village bounds here, where we talk about celebrating age, celebrating decades, celebrating anniversaries, celebrating many different things. So you've got the placard that you can cut in different ways, and we can use it with the artwork that's printed. You can print that and cut it, or you can do that yourself with stamps, because we don't want to corner you. If you don't want the welcome to sign, you'll notice on here that we've got little score lines that sit. We're allowing us to cut that off. You don't have to keep it, that's fine. You can just use it as it is. You've got all of these elements here. You can just utilise those pieces. We've got your Cotswold wall, which is super, super awesome. And it's also allowing us to shape and change that. I can snip into it. Always, always snippability factor. I've got a wonderful big hedge. We've got enough creatures from our Carnation collections that you can have all kinds of little creatures poking their head above that. We've got donkeys, we've had a llama, you've got Larry there that we've got from previous collections. There are so many little creatures we've got, like the Carnation mice, let's face it. You've got all of them. Remember everybody's best friend with the dogs? Maybe a dog is in this scene. Because when we build with Carnation, what they do is keep giving us the tools for the job. So all of those collections we've had previously, where we've got this beautiful park, what would you have a dog with you in a park? Maybe so. Would your recipient? You know, all those elements coming together to form the perfect picture. You've got your fence lines here, your boundary fence that sits, and you've got obviously the extra panels, everything coming together to produce front of house. That's your front of house scene. And then we go into the card. When we go into the card, we've got a wonderful house shape here that's got so many specific cut lines that I can use individual elements just by snipping in and cutting away part of the house if I want to, making it smaller. I can cut that down. I can use different elements for it. So super important. And then I've got this wonderful little thatched cottage. And the minute you say thatched cottage, we're taken somewhere else. You're not in a city when you see a thatched cottage. So as soon as we say it, we expect the rolling hills. We expect the greenery to come in, so Carnation give us those tools. Because it's important, right? It's how we build those scenes. If we're going to have a walk to a church, you've got your flat line here. We discussed this very much in depth in the last show. If you've got a flat line, you're going to need to have something that makes sense of it, unless you're going to use it in a different way. Now, you can use the grass strip that we've got, absolutely, to ground that out. Or we can use a beautiful walkway into that church. It's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. Remember the Aperture card when we are starting with this, the wee pokey point that comes down, we'll match it, we'll mirror it. Start your pathway, walk into your card. Everything taken care of, all your hand holding, it's done for you. From the church, we go to the stunning, stunning verdant canopy. It's incredible, that die, just on its own. Take out the extra beautiful factors that we get. That is extraordinary. But we'll also give you the birdhouses in case you want to change it up. We'll also give you the bird feeder, and we'll give you a swing that can swing from that tree. It can also swing from an Aperture card, maybe if you're using a DL card, and you might want to put a mouse on there or something else. But we'll give you all of the elements. We'll let you play the way you want to play. Here's your grounding device, that strip of grass, done in a lovely, lovely symmetrical way. Symmetry is important when we're working with sort of various factors, especially something like the bench where it's symmetrical as well, because easy on the eye. I've got a point here that's going to work with the point here. It's easy on the eye. It makes sense. And then I've got a little picnic blanket in case I want to have that sitting on the front of the bench maybe, or I might want to have it sitting on the floor under the bench. Lots of options. I've also got characters that then bring my cards to life. I've got the little birds that might sit in that verdant canopy, and they might be very busy on a summer's day, eating away at maybe apples or berries or whatever you choose to put on there. I've got two little squirrels that are very busy. Maybe they're stealing the pack up. Maybe they're just busy in the tree. They can be either or. But again, we're telling stories. We're adding those details that make a story full, because without them, we don't have the depth that we would want. And those narratives are important. So storytelling is just a very, very, it's a strong technical tool. When we storytelling card making, it's a strong technical tool, and it's given to us. We become technical card makers because of those elements, because we're choosing how to use them. That composition becomes important, and it's a wonderful factor. Things like this. If I place a bouquet of flowers on that bench, what does it say? What story do you tell? Who are the flowers for? Why are there flowers on a bench, and why is nobody there to pick them up? Has somebody been on a date? Has somebody forgotten them? Is it a tribute to somebody? Because benches often are tributes. So you've got elements there. But it can be other things as well. It can be so many things, and that's the point. It's also important to note that when we've got things like, for instance, loving hands, different collections like that, that bouquet will come in there, because we have tools that take us through loads of different collections. So Carnation will always give us that. Then you've got your gorgeous little pack up, your sandwich that's maybe sitting in some greaseproof paper. You've got a little packed lunch box. You've got an apple. And that can be reproduced many times to allow it to sit in that tree. So we've got an apple tree now instead of a flower tree or a plain tree. We've got an inordinate different ways of playing. And you've got a flask. If the flask is sitting on the bench and the pack up sitting on the bench and nothing else, what's the story saying? What is it telling us? How do we tell those stories? So you see, then we start to thread. We're weaving a story into our card making, and that woven thread that we put through it, that's what gives it its vibrance and its wonder, and makes Carnation cards different to everybody else's. And let's celebrate that. Let's celebrate the fact that we have tools that nobody else does, and that we produce in a way that nobody else does, because Carnation produces dies and artwork like nobody else does. That's what sets us apart. That's what makes us different to other die suppliers. 240806, your Stay a While collection. Combined price of £151.94. You've got a usual price, so it will go up to this price at midnight on Friday, of £134.99. You've got a show price today of £109.99. You've got free UK P&P. QR code at the bottom will take you absolutely straight to that product, so you've got no messing about there. You don't need to worry about it. Hover your camera on your phone over it. It'll give you a link and it'll take you there. If you're like me and you want to go the other way, you can just use the number as we said earlier. It's not the only thing that we've got with this collection. We also have your perfect papers. What are perfect papers? Perfect papers are, sorry Taz, perfect papers are your combined papers with your artwork. So you have 48 sheets of A4 300 GSM. So it is in fact a card stock. 6 colour variations, some with patterns and some with block colours. They're wonderful to use. Those patterns work perfectly with the block colour, and you can mix and match all of them to provide awesome layered apertures, layers, different types of mats and layers too. So really pretty, and they work so well. The card that you see sitting there, where you see your mats and layers coming through, they're your perfect papers. They work with everything. And if you look at the roses, they're the colour of the pink. If you look at the tree, for instance, they're your green colours coming through. You can't clash. Can't make a bad card with Carnation because we give you the tools not to. They are $14.99, $2.95 UK P&P. We've got a number of 240820. You can pop those in your basket and check out. But don't forget to bring in these little beauties. These are your stunning petals and paper nested dies, and man alive, is it a collection. You're missing the rectangles there, but we will show you the boards. I'm going to use the rectangles in demo because we're going to look at apertures. You've got your petals and papers oval, stunning pieces. Create your ovals and use them as easel cards. They look exquisite. Ovals are such a beautiful shape to work with. They're unusual, but they're pleasing. Anything that's round is pleasing to the human eye. You've got your stunning rectangle. This is the one we'll work with today. Look at them all. And you're not just getting the white dies. These pink pieces in between, they are also dies. So they're big. This is a big collection of nested, and they're so pretty. That gorgeous piece that you're getting with that detailing. So sweet. Look at those. Stunning. Again, easels, twisted easels, just divine. My favourite, your DL. I love DL cards. Beautiful to work with. Stunning, slimline, long, elegant, graceful cards every time. Beautiful. Stick a diamond on a DL, you've already made something beautiful. One of those on a DL with just the church and a sentiment, stunning card. And then your gorgeous petals and papers square. Gorgeous set of nested. Nested are always going to be your most important cards in your arsenal because it's every card that you ever need to make. You can make them with those shapes. We have them and we use them and we keep them, and that detailing is important. I can tell you absolutely hand on heart, Carnation's nested dies. There's nobody that does them like Carnation. They have the most gorgeous finishes to them, lovely edgings to them. The teardrop and sweet, you'll remember from not long ago. Beautiful pieces. Every time a winner. 240813, that's your petals and paper collection. Show price of £139.99, which is an absolute bargain. Combine price of £167.94. Obviously free P&P. Carnation have a threshold of £50 on your P&P. Anything below it you will pay £2.95. Anything over then it will be free, which is very nice to have. Your international postage is different. Your shipping and handling, if you're in Australia, if you're in somewhere else in Europe, or if you're in maybe America, it's going to have a different price. So your shipping and handling will be £4.95 if you're getting a collection. So if you get this collection, for instance, that would be £4.95. If you then buy your perfect papers as well as a combined purchase, then it's £14.95, which ain't bad for that weight to get that over to maybe America for you. And as we said in the earlier show, somebody lovely posted yesterday from the States saying theirs had arrived in 5 days. That's pretty good going. I will say a lot of people wait longer than that in the UK to get their purchases. So to get that in the US in 5 days, that's pretty stonking. So thank you very much. How many of you have you received your dies today? This is nearly sold out, so I know lots of you have purchased it. I'm hoping a vast majority of you received it already today because we likes them apples. We likes it when we can play. It's always nice. Let me pop these out of the way. I'll just pop them behind me. Right, up. That's going to cause a disaster, so I'm going to pop them down there. Sorry. Right, so let's have a chat about apertures. The reason I'm doing an aperture demo for you today is because somebody asked me to last week to show how Carnation's or how we work with apertures in Carnation, how we do layered apertures. It's not difficult. I'm only going to be able to show you the way that I do it, and I'm not saying that that is absolutely the correct way to do it. I do it my way because it's how I worked it out in my head as being the easiest. I'm hopeless with numbers. Measuring is not for me. I won't get it right anyway, and then I'll get frustrated. So I wanted an easier way to work it out. And one day I had a little moment of, that'll work. And so that's how I do it. So we're going to play with that today. We're going to have a look at your petals and paper. We're going to look at the rectangles. So I'm using these ones. Apologies to Carnation. But I have got this piece and then this piece. Can you see I've got two? There's a thin die as well. Now, if I remove this from the packaging just as so, if you're working with these at home and they ever get stuck, it's red liner tape that's underneath them. Pull the packaging rather than the die. You don't want to bend it, and that'll preserve your dies. Always keep your dies in the packaging that you get. If you need more packaging for other dies that you might own from other companies, please do head to Carnation's website. They do have packaging on there. They're useful for storage because they are obviously, once they've got the card knit, fairly rigid. I know lots of you use magnetic sheets inside this piece of packaging, so and you know, so that you can keep them on the magnets rather than trying to pull it away from the red liner. Carnation also have magnetic sheets, so you can purchase those as well. It's all there for you. I'm going to take these two off first. So this is my first port of call. The first thing I'm going to do is create my card base using the largest die. Now, obviously, if I wanted to make a small card, I'm going to go down, obviously, in size. But for this one, I want it to just be a normal card base as I would normally make. I'm going to use Carnation's 350 GSM because I like my card bases to be strong. If you want to have it a lesser weight. Now, I know this is a lot to do with pressure in your die cutting machines. Not all die cutting machines are made equal. Mine is so old, I think it's possibly loosened a little bit inside, so I don't always get the pressure I need. I do often use extra pieces of cardstock inside as shims, so you'll see one here where I've got a piece of cardstock in there. Carnation's dies are such good quality that it doesn't need a huge amount of pressure, but when your machine lets you down, unfortunately, and mine does sometimes, use your extra shims, and you can put it through more than once. I like to preserve as much cardstock as I can, so I have a tendency to do it that way when I'm working at home, okay? And that's going to work with pressure in different sides. Now, the problem with that is if you always work in the same way with your dies, your pressure points on your die machine often can change as well. You are better if you can varying pressure. So sometimes doing it that way, sometimes working with one in the middle. So if you're working with something like this and you think, well, I can probably get two of those out of this, and often we can, then you're often better off cutting your cardstock in half, changing it round, changing the angle inside, just so the pressure is constantly changing inside your machine, and that might give you a little extra help, just for those of you who haven't necessarily got a machine that gives you the extra pressure. So I'm just going to cut this the way I've got it here, and hopefully we'll get it to go through. Like I say, this particular machine, I've got another one downstairs, but this particular machine, it's not always the most reliable. As you can hear, sounds like me in the morning. It's a little bit, you know, clunky. You want to hear that crunch. Kind of like that. It's like a bone crushing. Now, as a standard practice, whenever I'm die cutting with anything on a 350, because obviously, like my machine isn't best, I take the plates, I rotate them, and I put it back through. And I do that because sometimes when we've got a plate in our die cut machine, they bend. And you can kind of try and straighten them out with hot water, all the rest of it. There's a million myths in the industry about how to straighten them out. But let's face it, we all know the plates get bent. Because of that, your pressure is different every time it goes through. So by rotating, you should make sure you get even compression. I can't help you any more than that because every die cutting machine is different. So once you've done that, obviously you're going to release your pieces, taking care of your dies. Remove those pieces. Now, I've got a card base. I'm not going to cut that twice. I've done it once, and I'm not actually making a card from these pieces particularly, but I do want to show you then where we go from here, okay? So I've got this sitting, and I've got a matte layer. That's my first matte layer. So that would obviously be on a foam, so I could raise it. Now I'm going to change the colour. Now we're going to work with a different colour so you can see where I'm going, because the pieces that I'm most interested at this point are my mattes and layers. The card base is already what I want it to be. So I start from this point and I go, okay, now I've got a choice that I have to make, a decision that I have to make. I apologise to all of you who know how to do this, but my decision is this. If I cut an aperture into here, into this piece of cardstock, and I could do that with an oval or I could do it with a circle, whichever, I can carry on with my rectangles. That piece of my card base is going to be the base of my card, okay? Because there's going to be a hole in here. By that, what I mean is, let's have a look at this for instance. That's going to be white on the inside, just here. If I want it to be my colour of my cardstock, my perfect papers, I'm going to have to change my formation of my layers. It won't change the way I do them, but I am going to have to work it out in advance, because if that's the case, then this matte layer, say like this was bright pink, and I wanted it to stay bright pink, I don't want a hole in the middle of it, right? Because the only bit that's going to stay is this bit. This is going, which means that is white underneath. Now, I like working white on white, and I like working with a white base. My brain works that way. So I'm happy for my card base to be the base point of my aperture. And then I'm happy to work up from there. So I'm going to keep that as it is, but I need a hole in this one. But I also need to cut more because I need another matte layer, all right, to make it work. So I'm going to take a piece of perfect paper. And I'm going to change the size that I'm now using. So I'm going to place this one back. Place this one in. Now, the joy of your petals and paper rectangles. The joy of this collection, and again, I will say to you, this has also been selling fast. So I don't know how many we've got left of these, but I don't think they're going to last for very much longer. And there's a good reason, they're stunning. So I've got these and I've got my matte layer and I know it's this size. What increment do I want to go down? As in, how much border do I want to have around this edge? That's going to matter. And it's going to matter because visually it's going to change how I card make. Okay, so I'm looking at how big do I want the hole to be, how big do I want the border to be, and that's how I'm going to choose my next layer. So from there, for instance, I can use these two, which is going to give me a small incremental gap, or I can use the next one down, which is going to give me a bigger border, my choice. I'm going to use this one, and I'm just going to release that just from here, and I'm going to release this one. Will I release that one, or will I release the next one? Let's release this one because it'll show you in more depth. Okay, so I've got those two dies sitting next to me. I'll put that over there. This is my matte layer. I know I want to have a hole in it because I want to show this. So I've got to have a hole in that one, but I need another one. If I'm going to have layered apertures, I need another one to go over the top of it, right? And I want that to be in a different colour. So I'm going to take my perfect papers, my Stay a While perfect papers. Taz, would you like green, pink or cream?
Pink.
Pink. Let's go in for a lovely patterned pink. So I've got my pink here. And I'm going to place it, okay? Now I need to cut a pattern from it, okay? And I also need it to have an aperture. Now this is where it gets to be fun. Let's call it fun. Let's call it fun. I'm going to put this in and I'm going to cut that shape out first. Then I know that's sorted and I don't have to mess with my excess on my perfect papers. So let's cut that. So I've got my formation, my base. You want that crunch? This is... I don't know if it's good practice or not, but I usually put a bit of WD-40 on every now and again just to try and Make sure that roller is doing its work. Right, let's get rid of that excess. So now I've got 2 layers. I've got my pink and I've got my white. Okay, and that's going to sit very pretty. Now, if I want a hole between both of those, because I want to put some foam tape here to raise that up, then I want to have the layer underneath showing, right? It's got to be showing. I want that border. How do I then do that and get it even? Now, there's a problem, and I'm going to try and say this as easily as I can. If I put this on top of here, it's absolutely going to cut a border, right? It's going to cut a hole. No problem. That's an aperture. I've performed my duties, except for it's not a proper layered aperture because I won't get any of the white showing on the inside of my layer, and that's going to detract from what I want. So the way you're going to do it instead, take your white piece, center that up, use a little bit of tape. Let's bring the cat in. Just a little bit. This is the back, so it doesn't matter quite so much. I'm just going to get rid of a bit of the sticky. Center it. And place it. Okay, just hold the 2 together. Doesn't have to be too much tape, you're just holding them. Lay it down. Now look for that center point, okay, whichever way you're doing it. And all I'm going to do, and this will apply to any layers that you do, is place that on top of both of them. Now, what I know is going to happen for sure is that it's going to cut through the white panel, not necessarily the pink one underneath it. It might go through both, it might not. If it doesn't go through both, it's going to emboss the one below it, and I'll be able to then see where I've been. So I get a visual point, a visual cue. You can sellotape that down as well if you want to keep it absolutely in place, but I'm just demoing, so I'm not too worried at this point because I'm not trying to get perfection. But I've got that on there and I can see this through now. I think that might have skew whiffed a bit. Hold on. Tape it. Just tape it, and then you don't have the silliness. Just 1 second. If you're taping, get rid of some sticky, and then place that on your gutting, okay? You're not going to be using that piece necessarily again. You might do. If you use low tack tape, it should be easier. Let's do this thing. Place this through. So you've got your bottom piece, your bottom layer on the top, and your top layer underneath. You're working backwards. This is how my brain works. It works for me. I hope it works for you. It'll make sense in a minute. Now, let's see if that's cut through both. Or just the one. We're pretty good there. It's cut through both. So now I've got my 2 panels. Let's remove that tape gently. Just there. Hold on. I don't want to mess with this for too long because I want to get to a demo. Just remove that carefully. Make sure you take enough of the sticky off if you can. Now I'm starting to cook on gas. I've got 2 layers, okay? So I've got my pink layer sitting on the top and I've got my white layer there. But what I can't see is the white on the inside. It wouldn't matter if this is the look that you're going for. That's absolutely fine, no problem there. And we would, you can do that just by doing the reverse point. So I can seat that on some foam tape and I've got a wonderful layered aperture. But what if I want the white piece to be showing? What if I want that border? Then now, because I know that that is where that cut is and that matches to that cut, so I've got my 2 base pieces sorted now. I've sorted one aperture. Now I've got a second one coming in, but I want this panel to show a little bit. So how do I change that up? Well, then I use a different size die on top, and I can do that by changing up, and that is going to be just fitting one inside that point and just making it. So I can choose one that fits. So we'll have a look at this, see if this is big enough or too small. change the way that you play, bring this in, seat it, because I know where that rectangle is. I don't have to measure. Measuring is not my friend. I do not have the skills with the maths to do the things. Bring this in, take some sticky away, place it on, put it through your machine. That's got a little bit skew with. We're going to ignore it. I'm not making a card with this. Just to give you the idea so you know how to make those layered apertures. Then we've got that central focus. I didn't have to measure. You're just going to use more tape when you do it, but you're just going to see where it moved here. You're just going to have to make sure you've got that straight. So make sure you've taped it at both sides. But now what happens when I remove this, I've got a bracelet apparently. I've got different heights. So it comes in now. So when I put some foam tape under here, I'll use pin flare just to show you quickly. Raise that up. That's my first one. And I have shadow relief. You'd use foam tape. The stronger the foam tape, the better relief you'll get. And now I've got this. Just pulling around. Obviously you'd want this to be deeper. And suddenly I have my layered apertures. I can work those up and up and up and up, and I can have as many as I want, as deep as I want, to create those box frames. And the way that you're doing that obviously is to measure by cutting your bottom piece on the top and your top piece underneath, so you have a guideline. You know where it's going. You know it's going to fit because you have your guideline, because I cut this one on top of that one. So this one automatically got the aperture in the right place. Then I know my markings. I know I can bring one in smaller, but bigger than that aperture, so that I can release this colour. That's how you do layered apertures. That's how I do layered apertures. Are there other ways to do it that other people would find easier? Yeah, of course there is. Is this the only way to craft? No. Do you know a different way of doing it? Possibly. But I know lots of people have asked, and that's how I do it. So that's the best I can help you with that. Thank you for the questions. We always want to help where we can. I hope that helps somebody who maybe hasn't been able to work it. It took me ages, way longer than I wanted to work out that little trick. And it has helped me inordinately. But I will say, hand on heart, I haven't seen anybody else do it, so I'm guessing there's other ways as well. That's how my brain works, and it works fine for me. Let me put these back carefully so these are fully preserved. Always put your dies back into the packaging. Out. Place this on here. Back into your packaging, so that everything's working as it should. And go in there. Another little tip and trick while I'm at this, every single piece of, or every single collection that you get from Carnation has on it a code, 240817. Okay, if this was part of the main collection that we're looking at here, if I take Town and Country, you'll see it's here, 240810. Go onto the Carnation Craft website, type in that code, and it will bring up this die set. It will then have a little tag that says additional information. If you go into there, it will bring you the collection that comes from. It will tell you which collection it was from. You can then search for that collection for other elements. If you have, maybe bought Town and Country and then you're like, now I'm ready to get the rest of the collection. That's how you go about finding it. That's your easiest choice. Another thing I very, very quickly want to discuss which we don't discuss often, but it's in my brain, so I'm going to discuss it now and then I'm going to get to demo. Carnation have something on their website, and I don't know how often all of you have seen this because Facebook is an evil foe many times. Carnation do put it onto their page. Reach on Facebook is a total mystery to everybody, so we don't know how many of you get to see it. Carnation next week will have, I think it's next week or the week after, a web exclusive die. We don't do a show on it, and the advertising we do is on the page. You might find that in your email as well. If you're part of the newsletter, please do sign up for the newsletter. To make things easier for you, Carnation have got a calendar on their website. So if you go to their website, their main website, the mid tab there next to the deal of the day is calendar. If you go and look on that, instead of relying on Facebook, it will tell you all of the elements that we've got coming up. And it's really important to keep an eye on that. It's a good checking point just to have a look. Their web exclusives are things that are going to be exclusive to the people that find it. If Facebook doesn't give us what we need, you may miss out on something extraordinary. Please, please keep a check on that page because we don't want you missing fantastic things that come up. It's all color coded so you can look at it. And don't ever forget to just check the deal of the day while you're there as well, because they do crazy, crazy prices on some stuff. And again, Facebook are not your best friend when it comes to those elements. Today we're doing Stay a While. It's the last show of this launch on Carnation's own channel. I'll be with you on Hobby Maker for it at 1 and 5, I think, on Thursday. So you will get to see one more opportunity, but that's Hobby Maker, not Carnation. For the meantime, you need to go on 240806 to find the Stay a While collection. Combine price 151.94, usual price 134.99, show price of 109.99 today. So super reasonable price, massive discount, free UK P&P. Everything that you need is on the website, including your artwork, which is under downloads. The artwork's free, your backing papers are free, your inserts are free, and you can even grab yourself a set of extra artwork, which is in a different colour to the colour that we give you automatically for free. You can grab an extra set for £5. That doubles up kind of all your like joy. It's a £5, but it won't be a £5 for long. It just stays while the collection is live, and we're doing it, you know, for the shows. Right, let's have a look then at using these gorgeous nesteds in a card. We're going to do something fairly simple and pared back. If you want to look at that main card base that you get with the main collection, the Setting the Scene card base, Into the Scene card base, please do check out this morning show. We did a full tutorial on that. We also did the same thing yesterday in the first launch show. So you have got that to go back to. And so that's how you make your card base, is simply just by putting two of those together with red linotape where it's scored at the top, and that will give you a super useful element there. Okay, so you've got the back just designed for you, all scored out and done. Now for this one, because I'm keeping the card simple, very simple, I'm going to bring in elements of foam tape just to raise it up, and I'm using those perfect papers because that extra detailing will give us a visual addition to what we're doing. So using that beautiful smooth, it's not actually fully square, it does have this wonderful edging to it, so it gives us just a little stem of detail. So pretty, isn't that perfect? I love the lace work that shows through it. Let's cool it, let's cool those tones. Oh, I thought there was a spider on my thing then. And I'm bringing in then the white. It wasn't, it was a bit, it was my grounding device, but it was stuck between the hole and it started moving and I had a little panic, Miss Taz. Not going to lie, I nearly left the studio.
You're on your own.
I love spiders as well, but it made me panic. Here you go. So you've got your little element at the top there. Again on a 5mm. So we're super chunking. Place, push, pull. And that's going to give you your gorgeous frame out. When we have that dimension, that chunk that we're pulling up, it gives us those extra values, doesn't it, just to look at. From there, I need a grounding device. Now I'm going to ground out right at the bottom. I just want to talk very quickly to newbies. Why do we use grounding devices? Well, because benches don't float in mid-air. a bench that floats in midair would be a mystery to us all. Give yourself a grounding device. As soon as we put that down, we make sense of what is there. That's why these dies are so important. Suddenly, it's not floating. We recognize grass as grass. And because we recognize grass as grass, we get to kind of understand what the card is doing. Oh, I can do my glue properly now because I haven't got too long. Let's place that down. Now, just placing through. I've got my center point guided because I've got that little point on my nested. I can follow it and I can cue it in. My grounding device is sorted. There is already a bottom to my card. You've seen the bench already, so let's talk on that. 5mm foam tape. I've got a super chunk so I can get the shadows to give it that kind of 3D effect. Just cutting it into tiny strips. Get your placement. I've got my center point, center point, center point, center point. So if I can follow that, and if you struggle, you can very gently bend your shape so that it doesn't all stick down at once. Find your grounding, center to center, and then lay it down. Okay, so your center point is perfect and you've got the right amount at each side. The shadows then playing off that to give that 3D illusion, which just make it super, super pretty. I've got my corner elements here and I'm going to frame out this on the top edges. Now I've got two options here. I can meet them in the middle to give a canopy, or I can turn them so my long edges are at the top and I get a shorter canopy at those sides. Are you okay, Taz?
Sorry, I was just looking at your card and I had a thought. Because it reminds me of like a pagoda, is it?
I love that you're asking me that question about something to do with gardens. Pergola?
Yeah, with the
thing?
With the flowers, like a cover, basically.
Okay.
And I just thought if you chopped the legs off of the bench,
yes,
and used the rope from the swing, it would look like a
seat. How cute would that be? Well, to put the swing inside there as well, just in coming down, would be beautiful, wouldn't it? Beautiful. So now if I place that down, it is exactly what it is. I'm going to use it this way because I like the canopy down to frame towards the bench, so I like to use a little bit more white space to frame down. The shorter edge gives me the upper piece, but for me, I've just got a little bit too much white space down at the side. I want to bring that in so I can draw the eye. I'm going to use some pin flare to raise this up so that again I've got shadow. And I'm doing the same at this side. And just placing that there. So I've got that wonderful canopy coming down into the scene. We're talking about walking into a scene, so you get to do that with these elements. But I want to draw it a little bit more down. I just want to have a bit more of an interest point. And I'm going to use this extra piece that we get here. I can bring that into the middle, so I can canopy it out and almost give it that extra flourish. Or the way that I'm using it today, I'm going to use wet glue for this. Small amounts, glue is sticky. I'm just going to add a touch more depth to that piece. So that's all I'm doing here. It's just a tiny little more depth. Tucked right underneath, following that curve. Just a little extra. No problem popping into the middle, and we will actually be exploring that as well. But I just wanted to show you those elements. So I've got my two little squirrels. This is a simple card. So if you're just new to card making, you've just discovered Carnation, you're just learning how to card make, These are the ones that are super, super easy. I've got my little Cyril squirrels here, so I'm going to place those on the bench. I can look at which ways to make those maybe more interesting, and so from here I can choose. Because we've got mirrored vignettes, I can have them facing either way. So I'm going to take this little chap who's looking like he's been caught doing something he shouldn't be, and I'm just going to place a tiny amount of wet glue onto his feet, basically his body, and that's the only place that I'm going with this. With the help of my trusty pokey, I'm going to place him onto the top of that bench. I want his shadow, so I'm not placing it on the base card, I'm placing it on the bench. I'm going to hold and pin him. So he sits forward and I get his little shadow behind. So I've got the 3D effect of him. This little chap, I'm going to place the same thing, just on his feeties. Use my pokey. If I can, I might not be able to use my pokey on this bit because I've got foam tape, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. Bring it up, place him in, and then use my pokey in front instead so that he's sitting on that bench. You're going to need to make sure that adheres if you're doing it that way because he'll fall off. Just make sure he's got enough points to sit. And there he is. Okay, so he's seated nicely. Got that lovely visual point. Excuse me. Right. Ball tool. These bigger roses. Mirroring beautifully my corners. Outside in. Every time. Outside in that spiral formation to give it that beautiful dome in. Now I've got a few here, I may not use them all, but I do know that I've got choices if I choose to. I'm going to start with the pink because they're going to be my central point and my central focus. One facing in that way. One facing in that way. And I'll just kiss them in the middle so they meet. Out. And now I'll form a little element around. So I'm building up. Maybe just down there. And then these ones just slightly behind, raising up slightly over the edge of that card, just to pinpoint my visual cue. And then you can start adjusting them. Once you've got them in place, you can start to adjust in the way that's the most appropriate. The main thing is to seat them so that you can see where you're going and start to base around them. Those pinks being sort of the main star. And I'll just rotate them so I've got that full depth of colour from the centre point. Something very sweet, very simple, and easy on the eye. Super cute, right? Because it doesn't have to be jam-packed. And the reason it doesn't have to be jam-packed with Carnation, and that is just a simple couple of vignettes on a card base. It's nothing, you know, I haven't knocked it out of the park there in that sense. Because I've got artwork that knocks it out of the park. I can take a card from Carnation. I don't have a spur vignette here at the moment, but I can take that simple formation and I can put any of Carnation's vignettes in the middle of that. Any of them. Because I know I'll make it a fantastic card every time. And that is exactly how it goes. Because when we have elements from Carnation, what we have is an instant build. And it doesn't matter what I place and it doesn't matter how I place. Taz is actually just finding me a vignette. I've actually got probably some next to me. But just the proof in the pudding, right? That's it, Taz. Can you pass me that? So this is a demo I had for obviously a completely different collection. So I'm not detracting from the collection we were doing. I just want to prove a point. And this is why it's so important. I've got here because sometimes card making, it can be less is more. When you've got the artwork that is so exquisite, that stands out in such a way that you're already leading the game by doing very little, you really don't need to be a genius at card making because your elements are there. Carnation is tried and tested. We know it is the best in the industry. Play with the elements you've got and understand that when you buy a collection like you're getting today, stay a while, which is absolutely stunning. It will play with every other collection that you own and have, purchased in the past. They're so strong. Stay a while. We haven't got much left, obviously. 240806. The Stay a While collection is on the Carnation Crafts website, www.carnationcrafts.co.uk. Easy access to that is by turning on your phone and looking at your camera app and just hovering it over that QR code to take you straight to the link. The show price today, $109.99. Free UK P&P. Yes, we'll be on Hobby Maker with it, but you will pay $4.95 P&P on Hobby Maker, just to let you know in case you are on the fence about that. I know Hobby Maker give different options for payment, and that might be what you want, but I'm just letting you know in advance. Usual price today, usual price is going to be $134.99, and to keep you all in the loop, it will go to that on Friday at midnight. Don't forget to add in those gorgeous perfect papers, and don't forget to add in those gorgeous nested dies that you've just seen me working with today. I hope that it's been of some value today. I hope you have loved this collection as much as I do. I cannot wait to see what you do with it. Please do, if you're brave enough, post them in the Carnation Crafters group on Facebook so we can all share your journey and enjoy your brilliance, because that's what we're here for, right? It's been wonderful to have your company. I'll see you on Thursday. In the meantime, take really good care of yourselves. Massive thank you to Taz today and to the Carnation team. See you soon.